All right, so like we generally do, for the next 45 minutes or an hour, you have to very painfully keep your phone aside so it doesn't disturb you or the person next to you. All right, today's topic was, we say it in different ways. God does not exist. It's another way of saying same title, God exists. And in my presentation, it's a little I done some time ago. It's called God. So we're just going to walk through that today. And I had not known that there is a cricket game today. If there more people were here, I would have made you guys debate with each other. And usually when I've done that, there's a lot that comes out and it's really fun. But we'll skip that for today. Okay, but we'll just go through some slides, and then because there are fewer people, maybe there's more conversation, and I'm okay with that. If there's no conversation, I'm okay with that too. All right, so I'm just going to walk you through a few, perhaps some of these things you already have considered. Some of these you already have a clear idea of. I don't have any specific objective that I'm not here to convert your ideas. That's not my purpose. My purpose is, I set out on a journey 20 years ago, and it has brought some really amazing insights in my life. And all I'm doing is sharing, and I'm hoping you also will share, whether you have the similar views or you have a different view. I'm okay with either way. I'm not, like I said, if you move from your idea, that's okay. If you don't move from your idea, that's okay for me too. I'm not going to lose sleep. I will feel hungry tomorrow anyway. It's not going to change my life. But if it changes yours in any way, great. I'd be very honored in some way if it helps. If it's not, that's fine too. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So let's just consider a few things. I'm going to walk through a little story. And I heard this many years ago, thought it was interesting. So one day, Sir Isaac Newton, he was titled, was sitting in his lab with a working model of the solar system. He had made something as a desktop model, where under the table, if you move a certain lever and pulley, then all the planets move around the sun. So his friend or someone that he knew walked into the room, and he said, "Oh, this looks very nice. This is the model of the solar system. Who made it?" And Newton said, "Nobody made it. It just happened to come together like this." So the person started laughing. He said, "What do you mean it all came together? I can see that under the table there is a system of levers and pulleys and all of that. Someone put it together. How can you say it just came together?" So Newton laughed and said, "Well, just for a tabletop model, if there is, you have to accept that someone put it together. When you see the actual solar system, how can you assume that no one put it together?" That was his argument. So that's the famous story of that one, which leads us to the idea that everything around us is formed, is operating on the basis of some chance or probability model, which to a large degree sounds fancy, but it is, in my opinion, trash. The reason it is trash, in my opinion, is if things are on the basis of chance, then there's a whole range of things that you can't explain. Okay? And what appears as chance or something operating with some probability to us may actually be a very predicted, very accurate event. I'll give you an example. Let's say a young child, all right? For the very first time, is aware and conscious of winter as a season, right? And in the whole year, the winter for them has appeared only once. They're just able to talk and assess that there is winter. And if they tell you that, oh, one time there is snow coming from the sky, and you say, no, it comes once in 12 months. But for them, there is no data for 12 months to say yes, because their life hasn't gone that far. So for them, it's one occurrence. For someone like you, who's about 25 years old, there are 25 occurrences already, right? So it depends on what time scale we are talking about. So something that seems random for us, that occurs once in only this time frame, may actually be a repeated pattern of longer time scale. Another thing with chance is, chance means the outcome is unsure. What comes in the future is unsure, right? If that's the case, then a logical argument for us on a day-to-day basis is, why are you studying data science? Why are you studying whatever you're studying? Why study at all when everything happening around us is on the basis of some probability, right? But the reason we are doing what we are doing, the reason we are studying, we're giving our exams, we're going for interviews, is we are removing the chance factor and trying to make it certain. Because and the more you do, the more certainty is what you're dealing with, correct? If there was no certainty at all within the universal model, there's no certainty at all, then don't study at all, right? It's anyway going to happen by chance. Anyone willing to take that risk? You're with me so far? Makes sense? So the next one is this idea of, I just shared, having a big picture makes sense. So I'm going to need to explain this big picture. So this is the time continuum. Starts at infinity and ends at, well, it doesn't end, infinity. Okay. So in the time continuum, we see certain phenomena happening. All right, and this is nothing but, let's say we were discussing previously what we call a lifespan, right? So let's take this as my lifespan. I was born at this time, and when this time occurs, I will not be in this body. I will not be living anymore in this body, right? And what we talked for the last 2 times is, I don't really die, I'm just changing my dress from this body to another body. That's sort of the basic Vedic paradigm, right? Now, all these show there's something I do here, in some cases manifests right here. We talked a little about this already, right? I drink alcohol tonight and I have a hangover tomorrow morning, correct? I steal from my friend, or I murder someone let's be dramatic, okay, why not? I murder someone tonight. However good I am in hiding all the evidences and nothing, if not tomorrow, a week later, a month later, maybe 20 years later, somehow or the other, people are smart enough. There are people out there smarter than I, although I don't believe it, but there must be, all right? So it catches up with me, all right? However, there are certain things that I do that may not catch up with me in this life, it may catch up with me in the next. But within this time period, since it doesn't occur again, from a probability perspective, it just seems random. You get my understanding? Fair enough? That's sort of the Vedic view. Okay. I'll share with you a story from Mahabharata. Mahabharata is this epic called Great India. And in Mahabharata, right, there's this great king by the name Dhritarashtra. Something about Dhritarashtra is he was blind. So Dhritarashtra once asked Krishna, after the whole Mahabharata fratricidal war was over, Dhritarashtra asked, why was I born blind? Right? And all my 100 sons were killed. Why? What did I do? And so Krishna explained to him that 50 lifetimes ago, he was a hunter. Okay? And one day he found a nest that had 100 eggs in it. And he lit a fire at the base of the tree and killed all those 100 eggs. So, as karmic reaction, he had to have 100 children that died. So then his question was, why not in that life? Why not the next life? Why 50 lifetimes later? So he was told that it took 50 lifetimes for him to accumulate enough karma that he can have 100 children. And that's when it catches up with him. Okay? Generally people think, if I do something good, although in my study of the Vedas, there's no concept of good and bad, although we use that terminology. What I'm used to and what I'd like you to be comfortable with is there are choices and consequences. Okay, so certain choices seem good now, but they may be actually bad later. Some choices seem bad now, but they may turn out good later and then turn out bad again. So it's all about choices and consequences. There's no good and bad per se. And I'm going to tell you another story with a story. There's a famous story of a Chinese farmer. One day the farmer, he had a horse, and that horse ran away. So all the villagers came and told him, oh, how bad your horse ran away. So the farmer said, good or bad, who's to say? A few days later, the horse came back with a mare, a female horse. Suddenly he had two now. So everyone said, oh, how good, you have two horses. He said, good or bad, who's to know? A few days passed by, his young son, teenager, was riding the horse and he fell down from the horse and broke his leg. So the whole village came and said, oh, how bad, how bad. And the farmer said, good or bad, who knows, who's to tell? A few days passed by and the local king was about to go on war, so he declared a draft. All young men should enlist in the army, right? So a whole village, their young men enlisted in the army except this boy, because his leg was broken. So they all came and said, oh, so nice that your son could not go. So he said, good or bad, who's to say? So what looks okay now may not look okay later. What doesn't look so okay now may look okay later and then change again. So again, it's all choices and consequences. And what one needs to understand is, am I willing, first of all, do I know what my choices are? It's important to know. Do I know what my choices are? And second, do I know what consequences are for the choices that face me? And the third one is, am I willing to take those consequences? And in most cases, we are handicapped in the very first one. Do I have certain choices? Sometimes we say and do something and say, I don't know. Really? Is it true? At some point in life, you have absolutely no choice. Do you agree that in certain circumstances you have absolutely no choice? Never the case. You always have choices. You always have choices. There may be few, or we may not be aware what choices we have, but we always have choices. And second, do we have enough knowledge as to what those choices are and what the consequences of the choices are? Quite often we take the choice, or we make the choice that is,
That looks good for us.
who said easy? Easy. It's easy. And usually choices that are easy have what kind of consequences? Not the best. Not the best. I mean, of course, simple things. Do you want to eat bread or rice? You don't have to consider too much. If you start thinking or analyzing too much, I think you need a checkup. Okay? But I'm talking of big choices in life, right? That will alter your life significantly. But we always have choices. Okay? So those choices have consequences, and it's important to have a big picture of life as to how certain choices I am making may put me on a track that will completely alter my life. So with that big picture, this is a famous story. I learnt it as a young boy in a book called Panchatantra, but it's a famous story. At the time I had no idea of what it meant until later. There were these blind men, and they happened to come across an elephant, and they did not know what an elephant looked like. So one guy touches the leg of an elephant and says, "Oh, this whatever this animal is, it's like a tree, a trunk of a tree." Another guy touched the trunk of the elephant, not a leg. Did I say trunk earlier? Leg. The other guy touched the trunk and he said, "Oh, come on, what do you mean it's like a tree? It's like a snake." Some guy was touching its tail and said, "No, both of you are wrong. It feels like a rope." Some other guy touched the body of the elephant and said, "All of you are wrong, it's a wall." And some other guy said, No, it's a fan." Some guy said it's a spear. And the question is, who's wrong?
No one is.
Or all of them are?
All of them are wrong.
Who's correct?
Elephants.
All of them are correct. But the right answer is elephant's correct. The correct answer is they all are right, but they are not completely right. And this is a very important lesson when it comes to theology. Because in theology, we all have some idea of what we call a higher power or something. We have some idea. But we are like the blind man and the elephant. Yeah. Okay, we're like the blind man and the elephant. We have certain idea, but we don't have the complete idea. Okay, so we are partly right and perhaps a whole wrong. And the Vedas, they describe why we only have partial information. And it says that all living beings, that includes you and me, all right, we have these 4 defects. And as long as these 4 defects are there, our ability to grasp reality, okay, remains limited. Because defects cause that reality to be obscure. For example, here we're going to see them. Okay, first one, we all have limited senses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us wear spectacles, right? The other 7 don't. Is it that their eyesight is better than ours? Is your eyesight better than mine? Maybe. Yeah, it needs correction, because once it is corrected, it's probably as good. But regardless, the fact that we are wearing correction, that means there is a defect, right? It's falling short of its ability to see. But even for those who don't wear spectacles, you can't see what's on the other side of the wall. Even with perfect eyesight, in a dark room you can't see your hand. You can't distinguish one item from another. So we are dependent on something. For example, in physics, we study refraction of light, depth of vision. Yeah, what is depth of vision? I see the moon, a full moon, and it seems like it's right over Gonzales Hall, when it is not, right? But that's the sense of how light and our eyes work. That's just for eyes. For our ears, human range of audible frequency is what?
20 to 20 kilometers.
20 to 22,000, right? Does sound exist on the other sides? Yes. Subsonic and supersonic? Yes. Can we hear them? No. Can other beings hear them? Yes. So it depends on the configuration of the senses. So as long as we have limited senses, our ability to grasp even the existing reality around us is limited. What to speak of reality that is beyond our ability of the senses. So that's first one. So with limited senses, do we make mistakes? Have you ever made a mistake?
Yep.
And probably not you. I have. We all make mistakes, right? Because we look at something and we think, oh, that must be the case, but may not be. Then a third one, what's the logical thing after that? We have limited senses, we make mistakes because we come under illusion. What looks like it is not how it is. True? I want you to give me 2 examples of illusion in this world. What looks like something but is not something, the way it looks. Mirage. Very good. What else? Anyone seen a mirage? Seen a video or a picture of a mirage?
Yeah, just like on a hot day on roads, you can see something like
The vapor. So it feels like there is water in a desert, but there's no water. What else? Come on.
Like Earth look flat.
Earth looks flat. Excellent. So there was a scientist who said, the earth is flat. Wherever I am, it looks flat. A big, massive plane. Something so big, somehow it's in the sky, it looks very small. It's not small.
Sun is revolving around Earth.
Sun is revolving around the earth, although that's a valid model. It's because it's relative motion. You can take either way. Okay, there is what is called the heliocentric model. The sun is at the center, and all the planets move around the sun. The Vedic model is the geocentric model. I'm fixed. My reference point is fixed, and everything moves around me. All right, but it looks like the sun is moving. All right, and because of those other 3, the 4th is called a cheating propensity. The cheating propensity is that although something looks different, I'm convinced that I'm right. Anyone in this room convinced they are right and try to convince others that they are right in situations? Yes? You've convinced others or tried to convince others you're right? Yeah. Anyone say, actually I have limited senses, there's a possibility I made a mistake? It's a little rare, right? So we're very correct. We set up experiments, we take readings and we say, we're right, look at it. So someone may say, I have limited senses, but I have developed machines and instruments that can overcome that limitation. And what would your argument be against that?
With the limited senses, you can't make a machine with a greater sense. Like
Exactly. So my limitation will manifest within the machine I create or the instrument I create. Right? So I'm going to walk through a Vedic example of why this is being talked about. So with that, 4 defects, it's not always possible to get the full picture. Who has the full picture? The one who is not blind, right? That means those limited senses, if they are not limited, someone will have the complete picture and say, yes, in this case it looks like a rope, in that case it looks like a tree, but that's called an elephant. All right, so we're going to transition into something. Here's the argument for. One of the things we asked last time was those who have an idea or a understanding that God exists. Some have an understanding that I'm not sure. Some say really I don't care whether it exists, he exists or not, or he or she or it exists. And some are absolutely not, right? So from a Vedic perspective, there are three dimensions on which this argument is based. The fact that there is creation around us implies there is a creator. Okay? We come home, there is wonderful dinner already made. Any of us assumed that it happened on its own? Somehow the chickpeas got together with the tomato sauce and the spices and their conversation, and randomly in certain proportions they mixed each other and they became very tasty. Is that what you tell your mother? If she says, see what I made for you? No, it happened by chance, it was already there. As soon as there is a creation, you have to assume there has to be a creator, otherwise creation itself doesn't make sense. Right? Around us, we see so much creation, but okay, are there laws that govern this creation? What are some laws that govern our creation? Yeah, Newton took the, yeah, sure. Laws of motion, okay, gravitational laws. So some other laws? Physical laws, chemical laws, biological laws, any chemical laws? Are you a chemistry student? Thank God. I don't like chemistry. Traffic laws? Sure. What did you say?
Thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics. Traffic laws too, but they are man-made. But they're in thermodynamics, chemical, physical, and all those, they're already laws of motion. They're in creation. And second, are those laws organized? Of course. Is the universe around us organized?
No, there is maybe randomness, like universe is random.
In what way?
So it's like say a human is born, like I am born in a particular family, so isn't that random?
So that's exactly what we said 2 seconds before you walked in.
Okay.
If you have a big picture in that time frame, we think that that occurrence is random or by chance. And the whole Vedic theory is there is no randomness. There is a choice, action and consequence.
And like the Big Bang theory says that there was this explosion and
Correct.
so that's like random, that promotes
Correct.
randomness.
And there is more than half the scientific community that thinks the Big Bang theory is a farce.
Yeah, that's also there.
Okay.
And in like speaking of thermodynamics, it's like if everything was to be organized in this way, there is some, I forget the exact theory. It's like if everything was to be organized here, then entropy will be zero, but entropy keeps increasing, which means randomness is completely like randomness is there. That's why entropy is increasing, entropy of the universe. So I don't know which theory is correct.
Around us is there organization?
Yeah, we have tried our best to.
Yeah, well, yes, we're just talking small microcosmic reality before we talk macrocosmic reality. Is this room organized? Someone organized it, right? It didn't happen that the tables and chairs came about in this formation, right? So we were just talking very simple. We're not getting into the specific argument of entropy and all that. That's possible, but in general, we're just talking, is there organization? Absolutely. Is it organized? Yeah. According to Big Bang theory, then everything one day. So the persons who argue against the Big Bang theory, and it's not one or two, there's a whole scientific community that says for a bang to happen, it has to start with the singularity, and singularity is mathematically impossible. Second, if and all such a bang happened, all these planets, they all went in different directions or whatever, they all organized in a way, but they are so predictable. You can actually, if it is all random, you can predict 400 years later, of course no one's going to stay there to see it, when Venus will show up in the sky. So random, although it seemed random, be with such precision. We all know today what time the sun will rise. We know what time the moon will rise. Everything, except our weather in Chicago, everything else is predictable.
So, like taking your logic of if we are seeing a small region, it seems or organized. Can we say that since we are looking just at a very, like our universe, my solar system is one of the many solar systems.
Correct.
So it's because I am focusing on just these two things, that's why it's, or like only, if only I am focusing on a small part, that's why it looks very organized.
No, the principle that at different levels there must be organization. If there is creation, there must be creator. That's all it is saying. Okay, if it is organized at this level, it must be organized at that level too. Otherwise it's like saying my living room is organized but my bedroom is really trashy. It's not like that. Seasons, of course, some of them have become a little unpredictable, but it's not that summer shows up after winter. It always shows up after spring, and they're in a particular order. Anyone recognize these? That one, that's the gravitational force between two masses. Alright, so then one of the, I think I'm going to show you a video if I get a chance, about the existence of God. There are many scientists who say if you are looking for a mathematical certainty, then it is not possible to say, right? Because it is not meant to be a mathematical possibility. But if you can speak with sufficiency, or you can speak and put together different pieces of evidence, like if you're solving a murder mystery, you cannot solve with a mathematical precision or mathematical 100%, but you piece together different evidences, right, to come to a logical conclusion of who might be the person who's the perpetrator. Like that, there is enough evidence out there. So one of the evidences or the arguments that is posed is in putting together a plane, okay, for it to fly, there's a whole design behind it, or a designer. But is it fair to argue that there's no designer for a bird to fly? We say it happens in nature, it's randomly happening in nature. We saw birds flying. Or here, someone draws a rose. There's a whole thought behind how that should be. Of course, it's copied from nature, but there must be a design or a designer, more importantly. We're not arguing whether or not there is design. That is already obvious. I think the argument being put forth is there a designer? We can explain that no, where if the rose plant is taking water from the ground because of its genetic makeup, that is how the flower will be, right? And if you have an orange plant next to it, it's the same water that you pour, the water goes through the roots and up the stem, right? And the fruit that comes out is orange, it has citric taste to it. It's the same water right next to each other, the two plants, but this manifests that way, that manifests that way. Why? Because their genetic makeup is different. And then the question is, why are their genetic makeup different? Alright, so now we're going to get into a little Vedic Sanskrit part. Alright, so I'm going to help out. If you already know the Sanskrit, great. If you're not, we'll help you out. So in terms of definition, across the board there are different principles by which God is defined. So in first is that God must be the cause of all causes. Okay, so general question is asked, if God created everyone, who created God? Then by definition, if someone created God, then that is not God. Right? Oops. So by definition, cause of all causes. So you go through different layers of why, like we were just saying, right? Why are their genetic makeup different? Oh, because I'm not a scientist in biology, so my terminology may be messed up. But if you peel behind layers and layers, at some point the conversation has to stop because the why cannot be answered. But by definition, the cause of all causes, everything that we see that is caused has to have a reason why it is caused. If there is smoke, there is fire as a cause. Why is there fire? Because there is friction. Why is there friction? Because something happened. You just keep peeling, if you have enough patience, to find the cause. We say root cause analysis, right? But the root cause also has cause. Until you come to a point where there is no cause, you could say you're fairly near. Okay. From the Upanishad, which is a body of knowledge, defines as one without equal or superior. In terms of Ishopanishad, it says supreme proprietor. Proprietor means owner. And this one is connected to the cause of all causes, owner. One of the things we do is we own piece of land, we own water, right? We own some air, but our ownership ends at some point, right? Either when I sell the property or when I die. But ownership ends. But there is someone, even if for me to create a house, suppose let's say this building, I need wood, iron, right? Steel, or iron or steel, dirt, whole bunch of other things, cement. Where did these things come from? They're already there. But to say they're already there, well, they have to come from somewhere. So although I gather these things to create a house, I can't say that those things are mine. The raw materials are not mine, right? But someone who's created them can be the proprietor. The next one is the controller. And finally, in the Bhagavad Gita, the supreme enjoyer. Enjoyer means one who has access to and ability to control and influence everything around them. Do we have that ability? We have. We are the proprietors, controllers and enjoyers in a limited framework. I'm going to use your phone. I'm not calling anyone. I'm the proprietor. Who is the proprietor of this? You control this phone, you may enjoy this phone. But as soon as it comes to time, your proprietorship, controllership and enjoyment is not there. So this is a phone example, there are many other examples. So ours is similar but very, very limited. Okay. The reason I'm introducing different things is to, and I'll hopefully put it all together for you. The world around us that exists, is it real or no? It is. Are you sure? Okay.
We can perceive it.
You can perceive it, correct. However, just for the sake of discussion, how you perceive it and how she perceives the same may be different. Correct? And the reason we perceive it differently is because although we have the same senses, within our capacity, the senses work a little differently. So there are two ways to answer that question. Who is my father? Not my father, for each one of us. So what's the one way that we can answer that question? Either one is biological. Since we are all students, how would I go about finding that out? Let's create a research design for this one. How would I go about creating a research design for answering the question, who's my father? One male person who has the most attachment to me. Possible. From a research design perspective, then you have to define attachment.
When it shows a path in other situations.
There are many men who show you path. So research design, let's start with the foundational research design. First must be a male, right? At least 18 years or more than my age. In the whole universe of men, must be minimally 18 years or older. Now that can also be debated. Someone can say, well, my dad must have been very experimental at 16 or 17. That I don't know. But just in general, 18 and older. That's the men in the world. Fair? Okay. And I tell you that for this answer, you have unlimited money to spend to find the answer, because it takes money to do research, correct? That's why we're all hoping to get some research assistantship. Otherwise, alright, so 18-year-old older than I am. What else would you add to that research design? To some degree you would say their origin is from whatever subcontinent that I am from, right? Maybe my father could have been Caucasian, who knows? Possible. But no, you don't think so? You don't think I could have had a white father? Why not? It would show in my appearance, not necessarily. It depends on the dominant gene at that time. I'm creating a research design to make it a little easier. So let's say.
Pay my tuition fee.
So the one who does not willing to pay the tuition fee then is not my father?
No, it is one of the parents.
Okay, fine. One is willing to pay my tuition. Maybe one is willing to fund the research. Alright. Let's say from a particular subcontinent, right? Okay. And then I go find that male. Now I have to spend money in finding that male. Is it easy? Why? Even let's say in my case, the person must be from the Indian subcontinent. It is not possible to find him in India because he may have traveled to Siberia. When I'm doing the research, he may be in Siberia. He may be in Africa, he may be in Australia, who knows? Right? That's one limitation. Second, by the time I sample in terms of my research all the men trying to reach this person, they may be dead and gone. Because I may have unlimited money, but I don't have unlimited time. Even if I find that person, let's say, right, then I have to have a DNA test. And is a DNA test 100% accurate? No, but 95% maybe, 97%. And then I have to call someone daddy. So the Vedas say, you can go about this way in trying to find the answer, right? You will need unlimited resources to be able to answer that question. There is another way, a very easy way. There you go, you ask the mother. Is it there? Yeah, you ask the mother who my father is. You saved time, you saved money, and the possibility of calling someone daddy when they may not be. Of course, in the realm of possibilities, one might say, what if my mother is lying? Quite possible. That is a possibility, but very, very low probability. Okay? So in this sense, the Vedas give this example to give us that there are two systems of knowledge by which we understand this world or anything beyond this world also. One is called the ascending system. The ascending system is the research design that we created. I have a hypothesis, I test the hypothesis, and depending upon my test, I may reject or accept the hypothesis, right? Anyone done statistical analysis? That's my area, so I'm good with that one. There is a danger in accepting the wrong hypothesis.
Type 1 error.
Huh?
Type 1 error.
Correct. And there is an even greater danger in rejecting the correct hypothesis. Right? There is an alpha and beta error. They say that the beta error is even more expensive. Or alpha error is more expensive, depending on how. So that's one way. It's an ascending system. The other is called the descending system, where someone who knows has to say, this is how it is. And even with the research, you may come to the same conclusion. So one of the arguments given is, well, we can measure phenomena in the universe, distance between planets, right? After our advancement in science, which is great, and we are quite accurate in our measurements. Now there are persons who are sitting on top of a mountain somewhere or just roaming around, who have this knowledge and will already tell you the distance between the planets is so much, the distance between Earth and Sun is so much. They didn't go to university, they did not send a satellite, they did not do the measurements, but the data is already there with a fair degree of accuracy. How did they know? I'm sure it's there in many traditions. I don't know about Nigeria. I know for sure in India, hundreds of years ago, they had the almanac. Okay, we used to call it Panchanga. 5 aspects are there. And they wrote down for the next 50 or 100 years accurately what time the sun will rise, what time the moon will rise, what time this star will show up in your zenith of the sky with such accuracy before any of these things were created. We've done the same to pretty much predict the same, which is great. I'm not debating against that. So there are two systems of knowledge. One is called the ascending system that needs a whole bunch of resources and time. The other is the descending system. All right. Now to get there is the way we understand this world. The first one is called pratyaksha. Forget this Sanskrit part. One is, in English, is the perception of the senses, right? Like you perceive and she perceives and she and I perceive. But each one of us perceives it perhaps a little differently. Then another system that we overlay on top of perception is deduction or inference with cause and effect. Up there I see some smoke. What do I infer? There must be some fire, although I don't see the fire, right? I see an effect and I infer a certain cause. When you add these two, think of the blind man and the elephant example. When you add these two, you have better information, but you still don't have complete information. Especially for reality that is beyond our grasp or perception. Things that happened before us, things that happened beyond that. Although we are trying to understand the phenomenal world around us, there exists a whole reality beyond that, beyond our senses. And how do you know anything about that? Especially, for example, the concept of God. How? Unless someone has that experience and vision to say this is how it is. So the question is, what makes one have that? That's where we're trying to get to. We already did this one. So I'm going to keep that just so you read it and I guess absorb it for a second. Forget the Sanskrit part. We have an inductive and deductive. Here we're trying to find the truth by our own endeavor. We learn about the truth by accepting some other source. So this is a descending knowledge, and for descending knowledge, one of the most important aspects is a spiritual teacher. Now that spiritual teacher, generally we have an idea, has to have a flowing beard and wearing some fancy robes. Not at all. Okay? The first and most important criterion for somebody to be a teacher is knowledge. But how do they get knowledge? They have to first be a student. If they were not a student, they cannot be a teacher. Because it's not like you're walking on the street, maybe there's a strike of lightning, and now he's the enlightened one. It doesn't work like that. They have to be a student to be a teacher. So for them to be a student, they have to have a teacher, right? But for that person to be a teacher, they have to have been a student. Correct. And so the first student or the first teacher is the source from which everything came. Okay. So last time when we were talking, one of the arguments was religion, I have a problem because it is man-made. Right? So certain people have that issue. It's man-made. So man-made and beyond man-made, the Sanskrit is called apaurushaya, which is not man-made. So you will find that in all lines of, I guess, truth is revealed. It is not something that you stumble upon. It is revealed. One example, I'm sure there are more. The famous example is of Archimedes. Right? He was trying to solve a problem. What was that problem he was trying to solve?
Flotation.
He was trying to find the weight of something, why some things float. And he struggled and struggled and struggled and could not, he was almost there but could not get the answer. How did he solve the problem? He was sitting in a bathtub, something like that. He was sitting, the famous Eureka word, right? He was sitting in a bathtub and click. He didn't solve it. It appeared to him. How many have seen the movie The Man Who Knew Infinity? You've not seen the movie? Srinivasa Ramanuja? Highly recommend.
I think I saw it.
Okay. This guy is from a time, if you've not, I highly recommend. Please watch it. It's very, very amazing. This guy was like a genius mathematician. All right? Gave the best equations and solved the most complicated mathematical problems, but could never write down the proof. And he was asked, how is it possible for us to publish your research if you can't write down the proof? And he said, it's not the proof. The solutions are revealed to me. They come to me. I said, sorry, buddy. Cannot, because we need you to put it down. Said, no, they come to me.
I think he eventually got it published.
He did publish. He died very young though. But very amazing movie. Watch it. So there are things that are beyond our grasp that are real. And that is what we call revelation, is the descending process.
So Ramanujan activated his baby, like he said, my baby tells me.
Correct. That is correct. Okay. So that is where it stops being man-made when it is revealed. So whether you take Catholicism or Moses, or Christianity or Islam or whatever other religion, you'll find consistently that there is some revelation of truth. Okay, it's not that you research and come to the truth. It's not like that. And that revelation is according to the qualification of the seeker. It's not like random, okay, suddenly psh. You have to be searching for it, you have to be eager for it, and one has to be humble enough to want it. Okay, this is a side principle. Knowledge never comes to an arrogant person. That's just the principle of it, because it flows. It flows from a higher level to a lower level. And this is the way, if you don't consider yourself a student, your teacher will never give it to you. Okay? So the first order is, especially in the spiritual sciences, the first order is humility. I somehow relate with movies a little bit, just so that I guess my audience has more experience on it. How many of you seen the movie The Karate Kid? You seen the movie Karate Kid? The new one and the old one? Either one? Old one. Alright. This is the kid who goes to learn from certain master. Right? What is his attitude in the beginning? I'm here to learn. Teach me. And what does the teacher do? At least I remember the newer version, disciplines. What's the disciplining? To remove the arrogance. Okay, it tells him just you have to hang the coat every day. To a point of frustration for him. Finally realizes that unless I approach my teacher with humility, there is no chance that I'm going to learn anything. And this is only karate. We're not even talking of higher dimensional stuff. This is just within this realm. Right? So this descending knowledge has to descend when the student is one seeking and humble. And humble means I don't know and I want to know. This is what humility is. I don't know, but I want to know. Because the moment you say I know, then you stop learning. This is just a reality in life. I often tell you this a little joke. There were two roommates, and one of the roommates had a guitar, and the other one did not. Once they stayed together a few days, the second guy came back home and told his roommate, hey, guess what? I joined guitar classes. I'm going to take lessons. Oh, wonderful. Where are you going? I'm going to such and such place. Oh, how much are they charging you? They're charging me $20 an hour. This guy said, oh, great. I want to go find that teacher. So he goes to the guitar teacher and says, I also want to learn from you. Oh, great. Do you know how to play the guitar? Oh, yes, I already know how to play the guitar. I have a guitar and I've taught myself a little bit. The teacher said, great, no problem. I'll charge you $40 an hour. So I said, well, wait a minute. My roommate has no sense of music at all. And you're charging him $20 an hour. He said, yeah, in your case, the first $20 is to make you unlearn. And then to make you learn. So this idea of I know already, or I know, is a stumbling block. That is true in all streams of learning. What to speak of learning that is beyond our grasp. Okay, I'm not going to give you too much of Sanskrit here. But the most important thing is in the Bhagavad Gita, it says for you to learn anything, you need three things. Okay, I'm going to identify what it is. First is inquiring. One has to ask, one has to seek, I want to learn. Okay, if you don't seek, it's not happening. And the reason many of us are not enlightened, I'm sorry for being a little bombastic, that I'm assuming we are not enlightened, that I don't mean insult to you, but the reason we are not generally enlightened is because we're not looking to be enlightened, right? But the moment you want to know something about something, don't you go out looking for answers? Then you get the answers. If you never looked, you never find it. So the first order of business is to inquire. And inquire, he says submissively, with humility. Generally when we go to a teacher, the attitude is not, I want to know how much. That's not submissive learning. I want to learn, can you teach me this? Anyway. Then, so the Sanskrit is pranipat, pariprashna and sevaya. So first is humility, then is inquiry, and the third is gratitude. If one is not grateful to who and what they are learning and who they are learning from, that knowledge vanishes from them. They forget it. It escapes them. If you notice, most people in the world who are genuine and who have learned something will always, when they are being honored, they will always credit it to their teacher, whoever they learned it from. They will never say, I learned it on my own. They always say, I had great teachers. That's very, very important. Okay, but this one, sevaya, or seva means to serve, goes beyond the thank you. Because we can say thank you to somebody, but the real thank you is to actually do something in return to show our gratitude. Because gratitude is shown by action. It's not just a warm and fuzzy feeling that we have. Oh, I'm very grateful, but I don't do anything. This is like saying to someone, I love you. Okay? But you don't demonstrate that love to anyone. Then what's the point in saying I love you? Right? You with me? Yes? You want to say it in a different language? Yes? Whichever language you know, say yes. Yes? Okay. Okay, you guys are a tough crowd. I'm going to skip this one. Let me pause because this is a little too more steps of philosophical understanding. Any questions or comments so far? Should I continue the last couple of slides? It's a little more philosophical than I would have liked it, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So this truth or source that we call God, the Vedas say, manifests in three ways. Okay, and all three are okay, but progressively each has more reality manifested, and they're in Sanskrit they are called Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. But forget the Sanskrit. Let's take the first one. Brahman means the existential reality on which everything else is sitting. Okay, so generally we say, I don't say we say, have you heard people say, I saw the light, or it is some power or energy or something greater than me, something big out there, right? Some people say God is omnipresent. That's sort of the words people say, or the greatest. That's what the word Allah means. So it is this aspect. Because in this there is no definition except the sense of something that exists that is bigger and more powerful than me, and bigger and more powerful than all of us put together. Some existence there that is undefined. It is vague to some degree, right? That is called Brahman. It means the spiritual existence. Okay, then the next is called Paramatma. Paramatma is the presence of that, whatever we're calling power for the moment, within me and guides me. Have you had experiences where you've heard a voice in you? Not a voice in you, like, schizophrenia type voice, not like that. But generally we term it as conscience, something that prompts you, something that guides you. You have that experience ever? Absolutely, we all have, right? So that's called Paramatma, and that Paramatma in the Vedas say is definitely not some sentient being out there, but someone that interacts with you in a way that you are not aware, but definitely is interacting with you. And the Paramatma is the one who is not only the conscience, the voice, but also the witness of what we are doing. So I'm going to take you back in time. I hope you don't mind. Let me quickly go back. You remember that timeline? I'm sure there's a better way of doing it, but you remember that one? Yes? Are you awake? Yes, I'm teasing. All right. My reference of time is from here to here. But something happens here, and my question is, I don't remember what I did so many lifetimes ago. Who saw? And how is it that I'm getting the result of it here when I did something? I don't know. I never saw it. So it's that Paramatma's role to be the witness as we go along. As we go along, that Paramatma also goes along with us. I'm using the word goes, really not going anywhere, but is present with us as the witness, as the prompt, as the conscience in us. Alright? So one is the omnipresence, then is the presence with me. Is that it? Then there is a third, as called Bhagavan, where there is more information and characteristics of their own individuality, God's own individuality. Because generally people think God is some diffused light or just a voice within. True, is both and more. And that's the third aspect, where in Brahman, the eternality aspect is clear. In Paramatma, there is eternality and cognizance. And the third is the idea of bliss. Bliss means exchanges, where we have an option, or not option, we have a relationship and we can exchange in that relationship. So, like I said, it's a little summary of it. At some other point, we'll deal with this a little bit more. This is a little more than what I would have liked to. But that Brahman is, we say, all-pervading, abstract, formless and featureless, like light. Yeah. And in the Bhagavad Gita is this described that by me in my unmanifested form, I pervade this entire universe. It's the omnipresence feature. Then it's Paramatma. The overseer provides memory, intelligence, the witness, the sanctioner. But this is all neutral, nothing to do with us per se. There's no relationship with us. This is like if you go to a court, the judge, like most people have an idea of God as a judge, right? A person with a big flowing beard and white robes telling you go to heaven, you go to hell, you go to heaven, you go to hell. That's it. It's basically the judge, right? You've seen the Sistine Chapel? What Michelangelo painted, you've seen that one? You've not seen the Sistine Chapel painting? Michelangelo's? Am I using words that are so foreign? Alright. You've seen that one? It's the picture of God and the human being and the finger touching, right? So that God is this old person, as if some old guy. God is some old guy. And it sounds right, God must be old because he's the oldest, right? He must be really old and, waiting to kick the bucket someday. And basically the judge decides. Anyone want such a job? I think it's the most boring job, right? If you got God's job and that's the definition of God, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. What kind of job is that? None of us want such a job. Right, but that job is the most coveted job. None of us can get it, but that definition of God is very limiting. That is one feature of it. That's the Paramatma feature. And the third one is Bhagavan, where God has form, has personalities, has qualities, has likes, has dislikes, is an enjoyer, is exchanging. And that is what is described in the Bhagavad Gita. So it takes us through the different manifestations and revelations of God. And this feature is what is the actual search for God. Unless we come to this conclusion, that truth or reality that we are searching is still incomplete. I'm not going to do this now. I'm going to wait. Any questions, comments? I want to apologize. There was a little overdose of philosophy than I had originally intended. But any questions, comments, thoughts?
So the conclusion is God exists.
What is your conclusion from what I presented?
God exists.
Okay. Yes. Any questions, thoughts? Thoughts like I didn't understand one word you spoke is okay for me to hear, but I want to hear something.
Okay. So if human beings judging other people is a quality that you don't want to describe anyone to be, if that's considered like one of the bad qualities of a human being, then why would God someday judge us? I know there's a criteria and all the humans have to function towards it, or at least like move towards it or work on it, and that's how life rolls. But and you can like already like perceive, oh, God's gonna judge me someday, and like maybe this and that, and whatever the principles laid out to me are. So why and how would I don't see it relating to human beings and God. If that's a quality that you can't describe a human being to be, but you're saying that's God's job, that somehow doesn't like sink in with me together.
Okay. Maybe I said one thing but meant something else, but here's what I said. I think I said or tried to convey. That if that's the only job of God is to judge, and there's nothing else to Him, then that is a boring job. That's all I meant. If that's all you did from the time you woke up to the time you go to sleep is you're judging others, right? I don't think that's a great job. That's what I meant. But you have other things in your life. You sing, you dance, you eat, you're with your friends, right? While you also may have a day job of judging something or someone. But there is other aspects to your life. So if that is true for us, how much more must it be true that there is more than just judgment? You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. That's what I meant. Anything else? You have anything? Nothing. No thought at all. Just no thought at all. Yeah.
I think this is just my thought and what I have learned
Sure.
about all this. I think it's very difficult for normal human being to understand what is Brahman, like on larger level. Like we all know it like very vaguely, and that's why like other two forms are there. Like the second one also, like we know, okay, yeah, there is some, we call it as a gut feeling or the consciousness. Okay, there is that kind of thing which exists. And this third thing, the Bhagwan, which we say, I think it's a way for a human being to see, that all those powers or all those things in some form or a personality with whom that human being can be with, can learn from, and can get that actual love. And that's what I think everyone, like in Krishna's era, did, right? So I think that's what it is that goes.
I was with you till you changed the order of things. It is not that the Brahman feature is somehow the higher feature and the Bhagavan feature is exactly the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
The Brahman feature is the initial feature.
Yes.
Okay, and our teacher Srila Prabhupada taught it this way. I think it really it puts it in perspective. When from a distance you look at a mountain range, it looks like a line, right? It's hazy, but it looks like a line. Do you know that there are mountains there? Sure. How does it look? It looks like a line. Correct. So that's the existence of a mountain there. As you get closer, that line, instead of a line, now you see individual peaks and trees on it. That's more definition to it. Now when you are on one of the mountains, you see the grass, you see the birds, you see the insect. There is so much more definition, right? So from afar, the first glimpse of this truth is called Brahman, where I get the sense of, hey, I am an eternal being and part of something eternal. That's called Brahman. But I still don't have more definition. Then as I get closer or as I evolve spiritually, I have more definition. That's the construct of it. Okay, so we stop? Alright, we'll stop. Let's see if it settles for you. If not, I'm always available to chat. But thank you. I must say, I had not necessarily thought that we'll get this far in the presentation, but I'd love to hear your comments, if not now, later as it settles with you. Okay. Thank you for coming tonight, and are we meeting next week again? So you have your midterms during the week, I believe. So we'll see you next Friday then. Okay, thank you.